G'day Dark Realmers, it's horror author and illustrator Michael J. Elliott here with you again. If you like your police shows a little bit on the dark side and with just a twist of the supernatural, then you're going to love Whitechapel, and that's what I've got for you today, a review of that TV show. So let's get started. Yeah. Now, Whitechapel premiered on British TV in February 2009, and it got very good ratings, and it was a great way that they set up the whole concept of the series. Now, the series starred Rupert Penry-Jones, and he played D.I. Joseph Chandler. Ray Davis, he played DS Miles, and Steve Pemberton, who played Eould Buchan. Now, there were other characters, of course, but these were the three that had most to do in the series. Now, you may be used to detective series where you get the broken detective who's, like an alcoholic or heavy drinker, and he's always hitting the bars, and he's got a broken marriage or his relationship's in trouble. Well, what I loved about Whitechapel was that D.I. Chandler wasn't like that at all. He was from a public school, which is in Britain very proper and, very upper class and so forth. And here he is coming to a very, very working class suburb of London, which of course Whitechapel is famous for, the Ripper murders, okay? Now, straight away, he is in conflict with his detective sergeant because he has a different method of doing things. He's used to, ground on feet on the ground, where Chandler is more sort of your theoretical, let's plot this sort of thing out, okay? And of course the team of detectives have no respect for him at all. He says they should wear ties and, start using deodorant and, pardon me, and things like that. So of course, yes, they do all that, but they start wearing rude ties and so forth and everything like that. Now, one of the things I loved about the character of D.I. Chandler was, as I said, he wasn't alcoholic, he wasn't going home to, marital problems or anything. His main problem was that he was saddled with OCD, which is obsessive-compulsive disorder. And we get the first clue of that when he goes to his desk and he puts his pen in a certain place and his blotter and everything like that. And of course, DS Miles thinks that he's not up for the job. He's not going to last 5 minutes here. Now, the premise of the first series is something that a lot of you will be fascinated with, and that's Jack the Ripper, okay? And this wasn't just, the writers didn't just take, someone who was copying Jack the Ripper. This was someone who was actually living as Jack the Ripper or identifying with Jack the Ripper. And he was carrying out copycat murders on the exact date and the exact time in the exact location, which was as near as possible because Whitechapel has changed in over 100 years. And so this is where the character of Steve Pemberton comes in. He's known as a ripperologist, and these are people who all have different theories about who the Ripper was and so forth and so forth. And D.I. Chandler thinks he may be of help here, okay? But the other team say, look, they're a dime a dozen, they're just all full of hot wind and he's not going to be helped. Any help at all. Well, of course, Steve Pemberton does prove his worth, and that's how he becomes a regular character. He goes from being just a ripperologist who is scorned and ridiculed and so forth. He turns his back on that and he actually becomes a researcher for the department, unpaid, but he gives them historical links to different crimes. And this is what's wonderful about this series, Dark Realmers, is that the murders the squad face all have some sort of connection to something that's happened before in history. Okay. And that's great. That's really wonderful. Not only do you learn something, okay, it's something a bit grisly, but it's fascinating history, okay? Now, the first series was just wonderful. It was very well executed, brilliantly directed, and what was good about the first series was that there was equal time between the actual storyline and character development. We got to know D.I. Chandler. We got to know, Detective Sergeant Miles. And, at first we didn't, well, I didn't like Detective Miles. I thought he was, overbearing and he was dismissing Chandler too lightly. But they gradually develop a respect for themselves, okay, and each other. And it's a cautious, okay, yeah, I sort of trust you. And as the series progresses, right up until the final series, they do bond and the team do work well together, okay? Now, the most frightening thing, you've probably seen those races against time before, Dark Realmers, where, they're desperately hunting for the murderer and the murderer is going to, just about take his victim and whatever. And it gets a bit, oh, yeah, well, believe me, this one had me chewing my nails, okay? Because they've worked out who the next victim will be. So they go to her flat thinking that the Ripper or the would-be Ripper is going to be there, but neither of them are there. And while this is happening, the victim is with who she thinks is, a work colleague and so forth. Well, they've just had a nice meal and everything, and he goes into the bathroom and slowly he starts taking off his disguise. He starts peeling off eyebrows, taking off a wig, putting on surgical scrubs, and that's terrifying because the police are actually at her flat looking for clues where she could be. And it's really, really tension-filled because, there's this whole flat they've had to search through, to find where she could be or what her plans were. Did she have anything jotted down? And we're talking about a time frame where the guy is just casually taking off, his disguise. He's getting out this huge knife, and you're going, oh, they're not going to get there in time. It's, whatever. And I won't spoil what happens, but it is really, really nail-biting. And another thing that the writers did really, really well too, Dark Realmers, was because of Chandler's OCD, he has certain rituals that he has to perform. Now, before he leaves his office, he has to turn his light switch on and off 150 times. And we see the frustration he gets in this, where he's meant to be racing out to the scene of a crime or helping stop a crime, but he can't. Every time he tries to leave the office to attend, he's dragged back by his OCD, and he switches that light switch on and off until he gets so frustrated he tries bashing it and breaking the light switch, that may, in fact, break the hold of his OCD. So series 1 was absolutely brilliant, okay? Now, season 2, I have to admit, didn't grab me as much, okay? The premise was that there were twin boys, and their mother said that they were the son of Ronnie Cray. Now, for those of you who don't know, possibly from Dark Realmers in America, the Crays were a notorious mobster, gangster operation in London's East End. They were twin boys, and Ronnie was gay, but he was also very unhinged mentally, okay, and some of the crimes he did. And anyway, in this series, these boys have been told by their mother that they're the son of the Crays, and so they go about recreating the crimes of their father, okay, to establish themselves as a bigwigs on in Whitechapel. It had its moments, okay, but I wasn't really you know, impressed with it, okay, I've got to say that. And I'm at that point I thought, oh, should I continue with, no, hang in there, Michael, and I'm glad I did, because the next series were based on actual historical murders. There were murders where the victim is found has been, you know, violently struck with a hammer, but there's no sign of anyone getting in. The doors were locked, there were no windows open, and it's really chilling. It gets you thinking, hey, how did this happen? And Steve Pemberton tells about, that's funny, that's an exact same case happened in, you know, 18 something or other. And we get this great feel of, okay, is this another copycat killer, or what's going on here? There's as the series got further and further on, they broke the series into two halves. So there were 2 cases per episode, per series. And that was great because, you know, I don't know about you, but I always, when, you know, the end of one series and you think, oh, I love that, or oh, can't wait for the next one, and you inevitably wait and wait. And of course, it takes a long time to make a series anyway, Dark Realmers. But this was great because just as you caught your breath from one series, or they've solved one murder, they get pitched into another one. And there's an overriding theme in this, in that poor old DC Chandler, his potential murderers escape or die or something like that, and so he's under a lot of pressure from, you know, the constabulary, you know, the bigwigs. You know, you're doing all this, why haven't you caught anyone yet, you know? So he feels the frustration. He's feeling a little sort of useless and redundant. And amongst all this going on, there's also another character, D.S. Kent, okay? Now, there's this very strange sort of relationship he has with D.I. Chandler, and it's, you know, he wants to please him. Yes, sir, I'll do that. And you get this very strong feeling that there may be, you know, that Kent may have sexual feelings, or you know, be attracted to D.I. Chandler. Now, D.I. Chandler is, you know, straight in this, but he's, you know, you can understand why someone would be attracted to him, because Robert Penry-Jones is a really good-looking actor for a start, and there's a few scenes in this, ladies, where he does get his shirt off, and so you see the pecs and everything, you know. And but also he does come across as a little bit effeminate, okay? Now, that's not, I don't think the writers did that to make him, you know, in any way less masculine. I think they did it as an opening for Kent to sort of think, oh yes, he did have a girlfriend, but she was murdered, but okay, maybe he's, you know, curious or something. Now, I have to, a mini spoiler here, guys. The series went for 4 series, okay, and it wasn't renewed for a 5th series. And so there were a few underlying things that didn't get resolved. And the sexual tension between Kent and D.I. Chandler didn't get resolved. And I was a bit disappointed about that. But this is a great series. Not only do I, as I mentioned, do you get some fantastic character developments and character interactions between the squad, but also between the minor players, those who are helping with the inquiries and so forth. There's a great sense of urgency whenever there's a murder or something's going to be committed. You get that sense of, oh, I wonder, you know, are they going to solve this in time? You know, are they on the right track? So it's very good dramatically. And as I said, if you like, you know, just a twist of the supernatural. Now, there's nothing actual supernatural in the actual show, but there's one in the series where someone is going around murdering people using 16th century techniques of how they used to murder witches, okay? But I won't tell you what it is, but the explanation is very 20th century and it's very scientific, and it's something you'll learn that you'll go, well, oh my God, I never realised that. I didn't know about that. That's absolutely incredible. So you do learn things on this, okay, to Dark Realmers. So look, if you're looking for a really good series to keep you on the edge of your seat, to keep you interested, okay, Amber, you might find yourself sort of hiding behind the couch, or you might not even be in the lounge room at all, okay? So, yeah, you might want to give this one a miss, okay? But for everyone else, it's a great series, and I highly, highly recommend it, okay? Now, you can see Whitechapel, all 4 series, on Netflix. That's the great thing. But it's also available on DVD and Blu-ray, so you can get yourself a copy and sit down and enjoy it. Now, what I did with Netflix, I binge watch, and I tend to do that with series. I watched the whole of series 1 in, I think it was a night and a half, okay, and then the next and the next. So I had quite a few late nights, but the fact that I'd sit up and watch this, and it was the first thing I put on, shows you how much I enjoyed it, okay? So there you go, Dark Realmers. There's not a lot I can go into with the series without spoiling, you know, what's coming up for you as a viewer, okay? I can't tell you about the murders and how they're committed because I'll be taking away your discovery and your enjoyment, okay? But I thought you might like to know about the character development and the interaction as the plots are going on, okay? So there you go, Dark Realmers. Check that out for yourselves, and if you have seen it already, leave a comment in the comment section and let me know what you thought, okay? I loved it. Well, that's it from me, Dark Realmers. Thank you for joining me, Michael J. Elliott, once again. As I always say, stay in the light, okay? Oh, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We really appreciate it. Okay, Dark Realmers? Bye for now.